Yep.
It was.
Mm-hmm. Right, call to order the meeting of the Lewisburg Area Board of School Directors. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Right. Good evening, everyone. I have a few announcements. We met in executive session for 2 hours after the last meeting to cover some legal and personnel matters. We also met for 30 minutes before this evening's meeting for some personnel and student matters. The principals and other administrators are excused this evening. Also, we have 3 board members who are excused, Dr. Zimmerman, Dr. Unzicker-Facero, and Mr. Fetzer. And with that, we'll start with, I'll welcome Lonnie Schaefer to give a comment to the board.
Yep. Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
If you wouldn't mind stepping to the podium, please. Yep. Thank you.
My reason for speaking tonight is I'm of course, a taxpayer in the district. I own actually 5 properties that I am paying real estate and school taxes on, but I also have kids that both went through the district. My parents both went through the district. And my parents would have had the high school got opened 5 years sooner, but my grandfather went to the one-room schoolhouse in Winfield, so they didn't come up to Lewisburg until the high school was built. Anyways, I guess my point for speaking, and I'm not much of a public speaker, but my reason for speaking really is to address kind of I don't want to call it a perception, but in a sense it is that you know the current bus company with the district has a bus driver shortage. You know, as we discussed at the meeting last week, or was discussed at the meeting, you know, there was also a food service worker shortage. We could argue there was a teacher shortage within the district. What I'd like to point out, though, at no time did any of the kids not get breakfast and lunch, to my knowledge, correct? And at any time, was there a classroom full of kids sitting unattended, or a classroom full of kids that did not get their lessons? And I'd also like to note that at no time during the school year did kids not get to school in the morning, get home in the afternoon safely, and get to their field trips and their sporting events. At no time did the current bus company leave the kids on the curb, as I'd like to say. So I think it's worth noting what we could call it. I mean, do you call it a cafeteria worker shortage or a driver shortage, or do you just simply call it we're short on workers? My point is, everybody pulled together. You know, we have some bus drivers that work in the cafeteria. Yes, your own cafeteria or your food service director drives bus for us. So, I mean, between all of us, we pulled it all together and tied it up into a bow. We make do with what we currently have in front of us, and this company has. You know, I've enjoyed busing service with Roar through both of my kids. I like the company so much that a year and a half ago I decided to go to work for them. So while I am a little biased wearing the company shirt, I would like to say I didn't take that decision lightly either. You know, the loyalty of the drivers, the experience of the drivers. I mean, most of these drivers, some of them were here when Lewisburg did their own busing. A few of them still have Lewisburg Area School District jackets. So the experience that we offer, you know, the knowledge and the know-how to get all the kids to where they need to be safely and on time, boy, I think speaks for itself. I mean, that's quite a resume that I think this bus company has, and I was certainly more than proud to go to work for them, and have enjoyed every day of it. You know, I love doing it. I love taking the kids to sports. I love driving the girls lacrosse team, which I couldn't do tonight because I wanted to be here. Hopefully they're on their way to victory. You know, the girls field hockey team, I got to drive most of the season last year, and they gave me one of their gold medals as a gift when they won the district championship. So, you know, I just had a lot of fun, a lot of good times within the district here. It's such a unique, special district. You know, and as a taxpayer, I would just respectfully ask the board to vote for our current transportation provider. Again, yes, a little bit of bias if I'm being honest, but I would ask you to give the company another contract. That's all.
We do not have any other comments online.
Okay. So at this time, we can move to the bus company official presentations. And
Yep. So up to you, who you would like to go first.
would you like to get us started? If you could please introduce yourself and so everyone around knows, and also speak up for the folks on Zoom.
Yes, ma'am. My name is Philip EJ Adam. I am the part owner for Adam Transportation. So thank you very much, board members, for entertaining the opportunity to provide a proposal to you, reviewing it and moving to this point. So our company is a family business. So our family's been in the busing business as drivers, mechanics, involved for many years. Our integration with the Weichel busing family and transitions from Weichel busing to Adam Transportation is something we're working together on. So we have a strong support from the Weichel family and working together to support drivers and initiative here at Lewisburg. But as we've grown, the company, Selinsgrove, Lewisburg, Midwest School District, it's still a small family. So when we talked to the drivers, we told them what was going on. It's truly a family atmosphere. So we're not a large corporation. We work together. It's a small team. Everybody knows everybody's name. Even my 4-year-old son knows many of the drivers, and he's learned his numbers by identifying that's Miss So-and-so, bus this, bus that. So it's a family atmosphere from beginning to end, top to bottom. So we work to learn all of the routes in the district. So we assign supervisors, but as a family, we've learned our routes, know where our buses go, know who's driving them, and make sure that we're able to answer questions and information when needed. We provide equal opportunity to the drivers for trip assignments. So there's not a seniority basis or anything that way. So it doesn't matter if you're the new guy or you've been with the company forever. If you're interested in doing a trip, you're able to sign up for it. And we work as a team in the management group to make sure everybody's equitably given work. We have a great longevity of drivers. So there's no reassignment or bidding process or anything that way. So we have drivers that have been with the same route, same kids for 20, 30 plus years. They've watched the children and grandchildren of those drivers and of those families ride that bus route and drive that bus route. We do have a lot of family that refers family and friends. So we actually have, we counted it up, there are 16 family entities at the company. So father, daughter, brother, sister, a husband, wife. So there are a variety of families that are together with less than 150 employees. We think that speaks volumes that folks have said, I want my spouse, I want my kids to work here. We operate 100 daily routes, plus an additional up to 25 trips and shuttle service operations. So we provide also non-school transportation for a variety of activities. Locally, Lewisburg Arts Fest, Mifflinburg Christkindl, Selinsgrove, different activities in Selinsgrove as well. But with that, we provide extra work for the drivers. So we think that's a key item that we provide them. So it's not just home to school transportation. There are drivers who are able to make a job and a living out of working for us. And it's a family that works together. Drivers, if they elect to just do home to school runs, that's great. But folks can make a living working there. We also do a lot of wedding shuttles and activities and provide the work for the drivers. So this kind of sounds out of character, probably, like you're telling us you have work for drivers and we're just discussed a driver shortage. But the reason we tie that together is the whole package with having the work available for people. So folks come to work there, find out there is additional work available, and they're able to make a living, as I said. We do work with the districts to balance schedules. And at no point in time have we had to tell any of our districts that we're not able to provide transportation, that they need to outsource it elsewhere. We've retained drivers with limited availability. So there are some drivers that only drive a handful of times throughout the year, but they're still part of the family. They might have taken a full-time job somewhere else, but you know, if we call them and tell them on a super busy day 3 weeks from now, we need help. They're still on payroll, they're still there. So the big thing with that is there are busy days, there are slow days, but the busy days we call in all the troops and work together. All the shop, all the office folks work together as needed to drive. We all drive when needed. I still enjoy driving, but limited with office work, of course. In addition, as we've taken over other contractors who have elected to retire, so that's how our increases have been thus far. We've had a 90% driver retention rate after 1 year. So 90% of the drivers, at least 90% of the drivers have remained on their same job assignments or taken promotions to longer runs after a year. With their most recent acquisition, now going into year 3, there are actually only 2 van drivers who have left since we've taken over that acquisition. One took a full-time job and one took family medical leave. So both different situations. And of course, as I think it was discussed previously, we would look to offer all the drivers that currently service the Lewisburg School District to transfer and continuing serving the district as they do now. So we greatly appreciate the opportunity to discuss with you what we have to bring to the table if selected as a new contractor for the district, and look forward to hearing your decision and any questions.
Thank you. So at this time, I'll allow any board members to ask specific questions, and then in the interest of fairness, we would give Roar also the opportunity to answer that same question if it were relevant for their situation. So I'll let anyone who wants to start. Do you want to ask your question?
In terms of the people you keep on the temporary list, the people who are semi-retired but you call back, are those individuals kept up to date with their security, necessary clearances?
Yes, all the drivers are approved at each district. So if a driver is driving for the assigned district where we have the work, they have current clearances, current licensing. So we think it's worth updating somebody's clearances and license if they only drive a few times throughout the year to make sure we're able to meet the needs of the customers.
Does Roar have, do you want to say something about that policy at your organization?
Yeah, sure, I'd love to. I'm David Schross, by the way. I'm Vice President of Roar Bus. Yeah, we keep drivers in all different capacities, so we won't, even if they can give us 1 day a month, we will keep them up to date with their physicals annually, with their clearances on a regular basis, and make sure that they're ready to go as needed.
So there obviously is a national driver shortage, as we talked about. It's no secret. You see it on the news. Lewisburg is not unique in that. And it sounds like what you and Adam are presenting to us is that you're somehow able to not have those shortages. You're able to make sure all your spots are covered, that all the games are covered, all the field trips are covered. Why do you think you're able to do that in an environment that right now across the whole country is struggling?
Not that we wouldn't always love to have 5 or 10 more bus drivers, same as the district would love to have 5 or 10 more teachers, substitute teachers or anything that way. But we think it's the family atmosphere. We're a family, we work together, people want to be there. So we have folks who, as I said, left for a full-time job, but hey, I'm still available these days. So as people find out that runs are open or available, we have a run coming open at the west end of Snyder County that we had no advertising inquiry or anything about, that we knew the driver's not returning next year due to family situation. We've already gotten a phone call from a family on that run that they're interested in doing that. So it's a lot of word of mouth. So I mean, we advertise for hiring, same as everyone else does, but we really believe that it's the care. So we pray every day that we have all the runs covered and drivers and everyone is safe and sound, and that we're provided the drivers that are needed. So we've been blessed to this point, and just taking care of folks and meeting their needs as well as the companies and working together has been a success over the years.
How's your experience been at Midwest and Selinsgrove?
Can I interrupt really quick?
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, I just want to give the
I
opportunity.
apologize.
Yeah. Sorry, if you can hold your, yeah. If you wanted to respond to the same question.
Yeah, I mean, I think PJ said it best. I mean, we've been a family business for 99 years. And, we did go through a transaction last summer and we don't technically have family ownership anymore, and I'll put that right out there. But I'm a 4th generation family member. We've always treated our folks like family. And, I think PJ can attest to that. He worked for us for 4 years. I think he learned a lot from our business and how we did things, and maybe some things that he didn't like. But we work very hard to treat our folks as much like family. And, I think that can be a good thing and a bad thing. People hear a family business, some people think that's a little toxic because there's nepotism and there's things that go on in a family business that, may not be for everybody. But we try very hard to treat people fairly and take care of them. And, I think we've done a good job out over the years.
Okay. Sorry, Marianne, go ahead.
No, I apologize.
It's okay.
Jumped the gun. I guess I was going to ask about your runs as far as after school activities and how you're able to keep those filled in your current contract.
So we jump through hoops, flip through whatever, and make everything work as things are assigned. I mean, we try to work with the athletic department as far ahead as possible. But we know as well as you do, though technology has made it better, at least Mrs. Moser and Dr. Fairchild know, hey, I forgot to book a bus for basketball tonight. We were supposed to leave 15 minutes ago, and one of us just goes. Lisa has gone to leave to go to Canton on a last minute whim, which is by no means any last minute planned decision. But we work together, work with the schools. If it's rain out in the spring, we alter times, have drivers drive from different districts. So there are many drivers that are cross-trained one district to the other. So if Selinsgrove is going to Middleburg or out to West Snyder, we may ask for a driver from there to go if it's a last minute change. But we work to work on the schedule. Mechanics drive, we drive, my father-in-law drives. So if we're to that point, my wife will call and go, Dad, I need you to drive bus. And we do it. And that's how we make it work.
Much the same. I mean, I've had my school bus driver's license for since I was 18, as early as I could have it. It's my part-time job in college. And most of our management team, at this point, anybody who can't drive in our organization is medically disqualified or is medically unable to. So, there are times when all of us are out driving. It's gotten a little better as of late, I'll admit. But, we have, we come from a long line of people that just roll up their sleeves and do what needs to be done. So I still am proud to get behind the wheel. I get the call at 4 o'clock in the morning, hey, we have a call off here, there, whatever. And we go and take care of what's needed.
I have a question about acquiring the vehicles. So my understanding is you're going to, if you were to get this contract, you would need to acquire vehicles to
Yes.
fulfill that.
Mhm.
Is there any concern on the turnaround time of being able to acquire vehicles before the beginning of the year?
No, all of the vendors that we've secured vehicles with or noted vehicles for have accepted the fact that the board had tabled the decision. So that's not a foreseeable problem.
Can I have an add-on to that question? If you found yourself with not quite enough buses to meet the needs, the multiplied needs that you would have with adding districts, add a district, what would be the backup plan?
The backup plan is transitioning buses from Selinsgrove and Midwest School District. So we have, I don't want to say a plethora of buses, but in the fall, there are a lot more buses that hang out and sit than there are in the spring and the winter. Our shuttle service is a lot less. So we run a shuttle with another contractor at the Farm Show Complex. So in the spring, there are a lot more sports going on over bus runs. So the fall, there are a number of vehicles that may only get used once in a while to make sure they're still running and operable. So we would have additional equipment available from those districts to transfer to Lewisburg if the need arose.
Is there anything you can share with us about a staging area location?
We currently have two options, so we're working on both of those. Both are very, very promising within the district, and one includes servicing equipment, so that's something we're still working on that way, with coming up with a proposed contract to make sure that everything fits together for that location. The other location is just parking service separate from local vendors that are here, but being able to work on one of those two pending the decision tonight is, or to finalize one of those two is based on the decision tonight.
Thank you. Laura, would you like to respond to either question about the vehicles or lot at all? No.
We have 39 vehicles currently assigned to Lewisburg that meet the specifications of the RFP. And we have 35 drivers currently assigned to Lewisburg that are credentialed, maybe some on medical, but certainly don't have an issue either way that way. And the facility we've been in as long as I can remember here within the district. So
This is, a lot of this is for education of the public as
Sure.
well, if they may not know. So thank you.
sure.
How many drivers would you need to add to your fleet to be able to fulfill our contract?
Versus the drivers that we currently have employed.
Mhm.
I have to relook at the list specifics, but there are 15 bus routes currently at the district. We had 9 or 10 drivers specifically available that aren't assigned to anything right now. That's with no drivers deciding to transfer from their current situation at Lewisburg. And then vans, I believe there's 13, and with the elimination of a current contract that we're not renewing, there would be a number of drivers coming over from that van wise. So it's less than half, probably less than a third. But that's with no one deciding to stay and serve Lewisburg School District. And us in the office not driving.
Okay, I'll do last call for questions.
Actually, if I could just, do you know how many you would need to add to be able to fulfill all of our routes, or are you filled with what our routes are for upcoming year?
With the way the routes are set up now, I mean, we have the staff to do it. It would depend on if the district wants to add, routes back. If we would have to add any additional drivers. I mean, we need a few drivers to be fully staffed. We had some listed on medical. So, to give you an actual number, I'd say if we had 4 more drivers, both bus and van, we could be in good shape.
Okay, thank you.
Satisfied? All right, thank you very much. I think we're going to move on to our next item. And
Do
then
I have an opportunity to
Present.
comment?
Oh.
They
Laura
get to
gets the
present.
opportunity.
Oh,
They need to
I'm
present.
sorry.
Yeah, they need to present.
I thought that was, That was
No,
my
they get to
misunderstanding. Yeah,
That's okay.
yeah,
I don't have a whole lot to say.
Okay.
I was told only to do 3 to 5 minutes, so I tried.
yeah.
to
And
keep
it was
short. I won't
it
bore
was
everybody.
fine for them,
with-
7:08 to 7:13 I watched.
I won't bore everybody with it, but I just first wanted to say thanks to everybody. I mean, I know first and foremost as members of the school board and what you do for your community, it's admirable, and I don't think people understand the time and energy that go into what you do. So thank you. Secondly, thanks for the opportunity to serve this community for over 20 years. It's something we've been very proud to do, and it's something that we don't take lightly. And thirdly, thanks for this opportunity just to talk to you about why we think we're the best fit for this school district moving forward, not only for the next contract, but long into the future. I gave you a little background on who I am, but again, I'm David Schranz, Vice President of Roar Bus. I'm a 4th generation Roar family member. Been washing school buses since I've been a kid. Drove them part-time in college, started working for our family business in 2008, where I sold school buses. And then in 2012, I started working alongside my father in the transportation services side of our business. My father retired this past summer, so now I oversee our Pennsylvania transportation operations, where I'm proud to work closely with our local manager teams. And although I don't get involved with you folks that often, which I consider to be a good thing, I do have regular conversations with Mr. Fairchild and Michael, and certainly our local management team. So what I'd like to do is just kind of lay out my number one reason why I think we're the best fit for this school district right now. And knowing the role that you all play in this community as stewards of this school district, I think we're the responsible choice for you right now. And given the timeline that you have to work in, given the information that we have presented here today, we have the people, which we look at as our number one resource, our drivers, our staff, our 3 maintenance mechanics that work in our Lewisburg facility. They are critical to the success of this district. We don't lose sight of that. Some of which have come out today in support, which we appreciate. So number one, the people. Number two, the equipment. Like I said, we have 39 vehicles ready to go today, wheels on the ground, ready to support this contract. Supply chain issues are a real thing. In order to meet the specifications listed in that RFP, you can't just roll all used equipment in here to use it. So we have that equipment. We have the required facility. We went over that. We have a proven safety record. We take safety very, very seriously in our company. And that's all thanks to our people who fully buy into that. And that all starts with our hiring processes, our screening processes, and our training processes. And we are proud of all of those things. One thing that I do want to bring up that was not part of the evaluation process last week, but was clearly specified in the RFP, $10 million of insurance. We carry $10 million of insurance. We take that very seriously. Claims in this industry are going up and up and up. My understanding is not all proposers provided that level of insurance. We carry ancillary coverages like sexual abuse and molestation coverage that in this industry the claims are going up and up and up. And I want to bring that to your attention because we take it seriously, because it doesn't only protect us, it protects the members of your community in the event that we need to use it. So please keep that in mind. And on top of all that stuff, we are the lowest price proposer. By my calculation, from the routes that we're currently running, based on what was proposed last week in the pricing structure, we're $50,000 lower on an annual basis based on our current routes. That's a lot of money. That's a position in schools. And I want to bring all that up because I think when you put all that together, we are the responsible choice in continuing transportation here in Lewisburg. So I thank you for the opportunity. I'm sorry we're in this position. I do understand that we've had some challenges with staffing, as I know everybody has in many different industries. But our people have pulled together. I appreciate Lanny's comments. In fact, I've been talking to Lanny about taking a greater role here in the community as a supervisor for transportation for us. And I want to acknowledge that, his willingness to step up and do that. I want to acknowledge Paula Brocious behind me, who's been our longtime supervisor here, who's decided to take on a position in another industry. But I just want to point that out because I think our local management team can overcome this with the support of a larger company that isn't too large to know the names of the drivers. And I see them and we break bread many times a year. So I just want to put that out there. And I want you to know that we're up for the challenge. And I think if you look at the things that we do in terms of recruitment and retention, we spend a great deal of time and energy and resources in trying to be the best that we can, and really leaders in the industry across the board. So thanks for your time and thanks for your consideration. Appreciate it.
Okay. For the public record, John, could you share the specific calculation that you had done?
Oh, sure. I don't actually have that in front of me.
I was looking for it.
But,
It's not in the thing, but
It would be on
Yeah.
last, look, 2 weeks ago.
I was looking, but I couldn't find it on last week.
let's give you a second. I know you're also responsible for the next thing
Yeah.
to present, so.
Back to future.
That calculation is determined by the composition of vehicles being used, the runs that would be relied upon, sports schedules, all kinds of things. And so in my recollection, although I could be wrong, the difference was not significant financially.
Yeah.
One scored, War was 11, Adam was 12.
Yeah.
When breaking
Let's
down the
see
household.
here. So in the cost calculations, we'll pull that up here. So yes, in the cost calculations, and again, both Roar and Adam are based on state formula. So state formula is an index that is set by the state each year, and it grows by the consumer price index. So I ran the results with an average of a 2.5 CPI index. And as you can see here, Roar and Adam come out very close. Mr. Sharance is correct that Roar is a little lower each year. That's also due to the minimum pricing that each district, that each provider has for, especially for vans and buses, the minimum, if you will, for short trips, that sort of thing. So you can see the numbers here with an estimated growth over a 7-year period. It does average out to about 45 to 50,000 per year difference in cost.
Can I make one point to that, if you don't mind?
Sure.
So the way the formula works is where we're starting to operate as it relates to what the school district gets reimbursed. Every dollar over that amount is directly out of the local taxpayer's pocket. So once you exceed the formula allowance, every dollar that you spend in addition to that is coming directly out of the local taxpayer's pocket, whereas every dollar up to the formula amount is somewhat subsidized by the state. So I just want to make that note. We've worked long and hard for many years to keep those costs at a bare minimum here at Lewisburg. And we've been proud to do that.
That is correct. In terms of the state formula, for every dollar that we spend, we are reimbursed by the state at our, not reimbursement level, but there's a ratio, the ratio that we get from the state, and it's roughly 42 to 43 cents on the dollar. So the other 57 cents comes out of local revenues. But yes, we do receive about 42 to 43 cents on the dollar based on the state formula.
How often do we use alternative contracts in order to meet all of our transportation needs?
We have used some transportation with the CSIU for some one-off van runs where we've had special placements or others that don't fit into our regular transportation schedule. So there have been a few. I do know this year for our athletic and field trips, like our smaller athletic trips, if a team only has 5 or 7 students, We've used our district vans rather than going out and requesting transportation. So we have booked our vans quite a bit. We've also rented vans from a local vendor for teams to drive and go places.
Who's driving those vans?
Typically coaches, parents, volunteers, folks associated with the district.
And just because it was mentioned, how often does Michael Jones, who's, for people who don't know, he's our transportation and food services director,
Yes.
how often does he have to?
Ideally, Mr. Jones does have his bus driver's license, and ideally he would only kind of be a backup
Right.
If there was a dire emergency. I do know that within the last 30 days or so, he has driven approximately 12 separate times for us to make sure that folks get to where they need to go.
And that's not ideal.
No, he would prefer not to drive.
Well, and he's not getting other work that we pay him for done if he is driving a bus.
Yes, I mean, usually the trips are after hours and in the evening, but yes.
But we compensate him then
Yeah.
for that extra time.
No,
Obviously.
no,
We do.
he's salaried.
You pay, the bus company
He is
pays
paid
him.
by Roar. Yes,
Okay,
yes.
okay.
Yeah, he does not receive
He's part of
extra
your
from-
sub pool.
He is, yeah, he's employed by us. And by the way, that was, I mean, that wasn't necessarily our idea from what I recall. But we supported it and we appreciated the partnership.
What happened before Mr. Jones got his CDL?
We would work to find drivers or, you know.
There was a particular reason. Are you remembering this, Moser? We had a discussion about it in a public meeting.
Yeah, I do know that prior to Mr. Jones being with transportation, I do know that, you know, we've always worked to find substitutes and, you know, move. I know Roar has moved drivers around from their surrounding districts as well as necessary, Mifflinburg and Selinsgrove,
It could have been before the consolidation.
to help
Yeah.
support, yeah.
So I apologize about misunderstanding the order of presentation there. If there are no further questions, John, you're just on again, so.
Okay, all right. So we'll take a break from the buses. Thank you, everybody.
Just for a
and-
moment.
Yeah, just for a moment, and we will take a look at our budget update here. So I'm gonna share my screen here. Because, so before we get to the meat of the matter, I know there's been some discussion lately, locally, about other school districts and their tax increases and other things. And I know there's been questions as to where school district funding comes from and why property taxes are so important to the Lewisburg Area School District. And it really comes down to the sources of revenue for school districts. So I'm gonna take a quick few moments to give a quick update about how Lewisburg compares to our surrounding districts, the ones you typically see in the newspaper on a regular basis. So looking at our last fiscal year, 21-22, I did a quick summary, and the pie slices you see in blue are state and federal revenue. This is revenue that comes from the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania and the federal government. And then local revenue is in green here. And that is primarily made up of your property taxes as well as earned income taxes and other sources of local revenue. So if we look at some of our surrounding districts, you see here last year, Shikellamy and Milton received over half, 55 and 56% of their revenue came from state and federal sources. Less than half, 44, 45%, came from local sources. So bear this in mind, it's over half from state and federal. Our friends at Midwest, Warrior Run, and Mifflinburg is pretty much split 50-50 there. You can see the spread between state and federal and local revenues. So then moving along in other comparisons, at Danville and Selinsgrove, you can see almost 60% comes from local revenues and about 40% comes from state and federal. Well, take a look at Lewisburg, and you can see that almost 70% of our revenue comes from local sources. 30% comes from state and federal sources. And I can tell you that actually 21-22 was a little bit of a bump year because we got a little bit of COVID money from the federal government. So normally, year over year, our revenue is typically in the 25% range coming from state and federal sources, 75% from local sources. And you can see how that compares to our surrounding districts. So just bear this in mind when folks, when we talk about property taxes and sources of revenue in Lewisburg, when I say we are dependent on the local folks, we are dependent on the local folks. So just keep this in mind when you look at the newspaper and you see, other surrounding districts and what they're doing. We're in a slightly different boat. So just keep this in mind. That being said, next school board meeting, we will be looking at the final budget. We looked at the preliminary budget here a few months ago. We've been tweaking the numbers and working on it as best we can. So now we have some options for the board. This isn't a formal vote or anything, but before I bring you the final budget at the next meeting, I would ask that you please give me the direction of the final budget that you would like to see on the June 8th agenda. So as you can see, option 1 here would take our capital reserve down to 0, and with a 3.2% tax increase. Option 2 and option 3, you can see the increases there, bearing in mind that we do have capital projects, not just this year, that are being paid for out of our capital reserve, but we also have things coming up in the future. You've seen the 5-year plan going out multiple years as we try to make our facilities the best they can be and keep them up. So take a look there. Let me know your preference. Bear in mind also our Act 1 index was 4.7%. So we are well below that. And again, we've tried to cut and reduce as best we can. But as you know, if you go to the grocery store nowadays, unfortunately, things are going up in price. So I would ask the board if you would give me some direction. I can bring that back to you next meeting with the official final budget.
Sure. I'll add, so let's review some of the things that we've noticed overages in this year. We had some significant costs that were just related to fuel increases.
Mm-hmm.
So that was one thing that ate up tens of thousands of dollars.
Yes.
We've had sometimes we have unfortunate surprises in capital projects land, so we probably don't want to go to 0. And food is its own separate account.
Yes.
But a lot of our supplies have gone up.
Yes.
Think about normal office supply stuff, we've noticed increases there. So,
and in talking with our insurance agent, we'll be bringing you those insurance quotes coming up here at the last meeting in June for our, but those costs are just going up all over the place. I mean, we're going to get competitive with the companies that we can, but those costs are going up as well.
right.
Our electricity, we just had to renew a contract, had to go up several cents per kilowatt hour there. Even trying to get the best rate that we could.
Right.
So
Bringing that up for this year, often there's a little bit of money left over at the very, very end. So we budget and then there's a tiny bit of leftover because we're very careful in the way we spend our dollars, and we transfer that, the board approves a transfer to the capital account. There are less of those dollars when there are unbudgeted costs. So if we budgeted, I'm going to make up just straw numbers. We budgeted $50,000 for potential fuel overages, and there were $90,000 in potential fuel overages. That means there's $40,000 less potential of money in the budget that could be put in our capital account, and we don't want to drain that to 0 because, geology.
yeah. Or roofs that leak, or
Yeah, weather.
yeah, weather, aging equipment.
Mhm.
Yes.
Can you remind us where our current capital account sits?
Our current capital account, we will have approximately, once our summer projects are done, we will have approximately, if my estimates are correctly, about $2 million left. And our 5-year plan, I think, has us spending anywhere from 7 to 8 million.
Yeah, the more than pay for the first year's worth of the next.
Yep. So, yeah. I mean,
Should we take out more loans, John?
0 stars would not recommend. Not at these interest rates, and B, the credit cards are kind of maxed out, so wouldn't recommend that.
Yeah. So we can't solve we might be able to pay for projects in year 2 of the 5-year plan, but we won't be able to pay for capital projects in year 3 of the 5-year plan by taking out loans. That would be foolish.
Correct, yes. Hopefully we can manage things well, and there will be a little bit at the end that we can put aside.
Can I just comment on, I think the comparison that you did is really fantastic, and usually I'm all for just the percentages, but just to draw people to the raw numbers, because obviously we could sway the percentages if we just want to hike taxes all the time and say, we're gonna have this huge budget out of local taxes, but just in the raw numbers itself, like we are fiscally receiving the least amount of state federal revenue, like not even just percentage wise, in actual dollar for dollar. In case anybody's not following that or listens to this later, that it is very important for our local taxes, even though that is a strain. And there are a lot of things that throughout the year, when it's not this budget season, we hear that we love about our district, and that does come at a cost.
And the comparisons that are made to other districts,
Right.
right, that are often unfavorable towards us, how we do things. And that's challenging. And then when you see that, it begins to make a little more sense.
Yeah, good job on that, John.
Thank you.
Anyone want to put forward a suggestion for the next budget that we see?
I'll put forth the suggestion for the lowest tax increase that we have to do, even though I know that impacts the capital reserve the most. So I would be in favor of option 1.
Where does that put us next year?
Well, depending on any remainder at the end of the year, and again, we try and, cut costs as best we can and push things off. There may be a little bit we could contribute to capital reserve, but
Because I feel like we we spent some money this year. Like, I get what you're saying, Corey. Like, I get it.
And we do always add those at the end of the year, and I'd ask you to tell us what they are, but I know the last couple of years have not been normal because of the COVID money,
Right.
so it's not a
we
fair
have been able to put
comparison.
aside COVID, yes. And most years I ran an average going back to when we could actually start putting money into the capital reserve, and usually it's in the neighborhood of about 100,000 to 150, depending. So again, out of a $40 million budget, it's not a lot, but it's better than nothing.
Yeah.
I mean, I would, hearing what you said about the 5-year plan, and I understand where we are, but the reality is, even if we put the most expensive option, that $200,000
Doesn't
is not
touch it.
going to address what's on the 5-year plan. There are going to be some hard decisions that have to be made in the next
Absolutely.
5 years.
Yeah, and we'll have to prioritize
Right.
which projects.
But every time, agreed. Every time we do the deferred maintenance, it ends up biting us a little bit, right? We accumulate a gap of what we can actually do and what we need to do. And then we end up, well, let's take a loan. And then we're subject to whatever the interest rate and loan conditions are at that time, repeatedly, and you end up with the debt service we have that John refers to as maxed out credit cards.
But I think it puts us in a place where we can't wait to paint 2 buildings for 30 years and bite that like we are this year. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, we have to make different decisions sometimes where we're thinking we can't hold a thing off for that long.
Well, and I think nothing's getting cheaper, and the longer that we go, and I get it for the community, I get it, I'm part of the community, and nobody wants to look at any tax increases, but realistically, some of the tax increases and numbers we're talking about now are because of not increases in the past, and those numbers are getting farther and farther away from each other. So like, we're never making it up in an economy that we have right now where everything's just getting more expensive. So I would be concerned with going with option 1, considering the projects and everything we have approved this year out of capital budget. Painting alone was what, $400,000? $700,000, $750,000. And we're hoping to put,
And we couldn't even do all the buildings we wanted to.
right.
Right, because the quotes are so
And then
high.
the playground.
And how much was the tax increase last year? How much was it the year before?
No, I mean, I agree. Like, I mean, nobody wants a tax increase.
Oh, let's
at all.
just get the actual answer, John. Do you want to
Right.
pull that up for us if you can?
Oh, yeah, last year was 2.75%. and not sure about the year prior to that.
What is CPI sitting at right now?
CPI, I think, is in the neighborhood of 5 to 6, but I could be wrong. Let me see.
Consumer price index is an indication of inflation, and that tells us how much things are costing different from last year to this year. But forecasting, we're also anticipating, again, a pretty significant one, probably 4% for the coming
Right.
year. So,
I mean, people's grocery bills right now.
Right, exactly.
People's gas bills right now. I mean, it's just,
21, 22, the increase was 2.94%.
this is significant, even the lowest.
And some of these expenditures we've taken on this year have also been real safe. I mean, John, you mentioned making our district the best it can be. A lot of it was safety related, sidewalk
yeah, covering
repair.
stuff, yeah.
We heard last meeting about some of the refrigeration capability we have. If we let that kind of thing slip, we're at danger of not being able to preserve our investment in the food that we've made. So it's not always bells and whistles, it's real.
Yeah, I mean,
Safety.
as you know, we brought to you the roll-through cooler in the Kelly kitchen that kept failing, and we would lose product periodically because of that failure, so, yeah.
Delbert, could I ask you, are you seeing significant increases in the costs for the normal stuff that we do?
There's something that we were looking at purchasing, that we purchased for the district for summer cleaning about 4 years ago. It was roughly $300 for the unit. It's $800 right now if we want to buy it new. And normal things, everyday items like the paper towels, the disinfectants and things that I use in the district cleaning buildings are all increasing in cost. Nothing's increasing. It's increasing.
Corey suggested option 1. You've suggested, I think, did I hear option 2? Was that?
I mean, I don't feel like option 3 is out.
Yeah, option
That's
3 is
not a
pretty
thing
much
that we're
out, right?
looking at.
You don't have the money, you don't buy it, right? There you go.
I do think, though, it's important to note that we do a lot with a little here. We have a superintendent who's been doing 2 jobs for the past year. We have principals who work as substitute teachers. We have a director who works as a bus driver. This district tries very, very hard to use its people to cover as much as possible. We run very lean. I think if you were to look at some of the other districts close by and the number of administrators they have more than us. So we are trying our hardest to run as lean as possible, but there are some things that have to be done. We can't go without a new freezer in our elementary school.
Right.
The last one lasted how many years?
30, I believe.
30 years, and we finally replaced it at our last meeting because the parts to fix it don't exist anymore.
They don't make them.
They don't make them. So I am a taxpayer in this community, and I do not want to pay any more taxes than I have to, but I also recognize that we have a responsibility to make sure that these buildings work. And that costs more than it ever has before right now. And that is unfortunate, but it's a really tough position to be in.
It costs more to pay our teachers. It costs more for them to have insurance. It just all costs more.
You can't get blood from a rock,
I'm not suggesting we try.
but that's what you're looking at doing to us taxpayers.
I'm a taxpayer.
Typically, we don't have,
This is not a thing.
yeah, we can do comments to the board after the meeting. So,
John, I know I had asked you to come prepared. The millage that you're showing with the increase, the way it's often reported in the press, is what that assessed value per $100,000 value of a home.
Yes.
Can you share that, please,
Absolutely.
with
So
everyone?
with option 1, if your home is assessed at $100,000, the increase would be approximately $61 for the year. so a little more than $5 a month. And for option 2, on a home that was valued at $100,000, it would be an increase of $71 for the year.
Sometimes just expressing it that way helps some
On top of what
understanding.
you're already paying, so
Yes.
just so people are clear on what
Yes.
that means.
Thank you.
Yep. So,
I'm in favor of a 3.5 option.
I was wondering if there's a,
Is that okay?
you want 3.5, I can make 3.5. You tell me what you want to see and we can make it happen.
It doesn't ignore the fact that we always have to spend on capital things and every once in a while, something. And I picked that number, it's about $50,000, which is about a truck, or about, a lot of our things that we do are about $50,000. It's a $50,000 surprise, right? About once a year, we get a $50,000 surprise. I would like us to plan for that, if people think that's a reasonable option. Is that something?
I can make it happen if that's the will of the board.
Or a plow truck, or whatever the things are that blow up out there. Lawnmowers.
Oh, let's hope we're not.
I mean, let it be said, we have had things that have been brought to the board for us to spend money on that we have turned down because they were things that organizations or teams or whatever wanted. And we said no. It was too much money, it was not necessary, it was not something that we could do or that we felt was justifiable in the environment that we're in. Maybe even in any environment, some of them. So, we're trying to be responsible here.
I can do 3.5%. Okay.
I'd like to see that and still not get away from option 1 at the same time. I still want us to talk about both.
So
Can we do that?
absolutely. The other thing is that nothing is final until we know actual costs.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We don't know our insurance yet, right? So,
That's correct, yes.
and I know you build in conservative numbers.
Mhm.
We are not in conservative times. Surprises are never fun.
Yep, I can put in 3.5% and I think we'll be okay. Absolutely. So, okay.
All right, these are fun conversations this evening. Yeah, so next. We'll do the old business. When we get to new business, we have an item that we need to add, but I need a motion to amend the tabled motion that names the contractor that you would like to award the transportation contract to. So whomever would like to make that motion.
So moved, since I made the original one. So
What,
I am motioning to table the original motion,
Put it back on the table.
or put it back on the table.
okay,
Isn't that what
Do
I'm
you
doing?
need to know what the motion is? Paula, the motion?
yeah, we have to read the original back from last week.
So you're making a motion to take up the.
To take it up.
To take up the tabled motion.
Yes,
I
I think that's what I'm
wants
supposed
to
to
know.
do.
I think she wants to know what it
Yes.
is.
And I believe the motion was.
I can read
Was
it
for
to you
Roar.
here in a minute.
Yeah.
Move to approve the transportation contract with Aurora Bus Service as the transportation provider for 23-24 school year and subsequent years, and direct the administration to complete negotiations of the contract for approval at a future meeting.
So that's been moved by Ms. Kraus. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Stanton. Discussion? You may, would you like to share your sort of main reasons?
Mine?
Yeah, I mean,
Sure.
it's been 2 weeks and.
Right, since it's been 2 weeks. I had originally motioned to go with Roar. Again, it's a known company that the district has worked with. Known drivers that the district has worked with, loved drivers that the district has worked with. So that was That was why I motioned my original motion.
I was just getting it back on the table.
Thank you. Any other discussion?
I think I'm concerned about the number of times that Michael Jones has been asked to drive. I'm concerned about the number of times that we've looked for other sources of drivers
And vehicles. Yeah.
in the belief that we would not find them if we went to our current contractor. And I think those are concerns for me.
I share those concerns.
Including the number of times we spent revenues to rent vans and things outside of the contract.
I have concerns in the number of unknown factors. I think that it was a great presentation by Adams. I am concerned with supply chain issues of being able to get vehicles. We've seen ourselves of just ordering box trucks for the band and having to put off a whole nother year because of getting it. And on the short time frame we have, that is concerning to me. And the potential of still needing the drivers. So the concern is the unknown as well. So, I mean, I have those concerns with moving with Adam, specifically the vehicles. We see that with vehicles specifically and supply chain issues throughout, even looking at lots. So that's concerning to me that we will have those for the start of the school year.
I think I'll share that if we happen to table this again, we would certainly solve the supply chain problem. There wouldn't even be the option, right? We would be
Right.
in the middle of
No, they
June.
wouldn't be able to.
Right,
get
so.
it.
I feel like we hear about busing a lot as a board,
Mhm.
right, in our current situation.
Absolutely.
Hear about it from coaches a lot
Mhm.
and from parents
Yes.
a lot.
I think whatever decision we make, though, that we need to be, whichever company we go with, we need to be giving them the opportunity to kind of fail us then in this time. Because I think that's one of the things, at least for me, that's making this difficult is it seems like we've had issues, but we may not have brought them forward as, you know, can you supply us with this? We're assuming that it couldn't be supplied, and that's what makes it a little more cloudy for me. So I think moving forward as a district, whichever company we go with, we need to be requesting what we need. And if people can't fulfill that, then they can't fulfill that. And then we know the issues, because I think that is something that's making this a little, at least for me personally, a little murky. Also from hearing tonight, obviously it is not ideal if we have one of our employees filling in as much as possible. However, from somebody that does staffing, if I have somebody that is a reliable sub, that is the person I'm going to use. So I also think that, again, that's what makes things murky for me, is the issues we're having. I don't know that we put forward with the company to be able to then actually say that these are concerns. And then when we go back onto the relationships that we have, and though I do 100% believe that Adams would be able to build those relationships with our students, it does seem that you guys have a very family-oriented, I'm sure all of your students you currently have love your drivers. Bus drivers are lovable. I have bus drivers I remember from growing up. But we do currently have drivers that have really strong relationships with people, and not that an entire decision should be made on that, but I don't think we should throw that away either. So that's kind of just my thoughts.
John, could you share for the public's benefit what the out is for the contract in case things go awry?
Yes, so written into the current contract language, as well as what would be in the future contract language, is if the contractor is unable to provide busing services as contracted, we would basically put them on notice to say, hey, you're not fulfilling the contract. Then if they would have a cure period to, you know, bring up drivers, get vehicles, that sort of thing. And if for some catastrophic reason they were unable to do that, then they would be responsible for paying our transportation costs while we went out and found another provider to fulfill the rest of the contract. We've never had to use that clause, obviously, but there is a breach of contract remedy in the event something catastrophic should happen.
Catastrophic could be any number of things. It could be failure to find drivers, it could be failure to find vehicles, it could be.
Yes. And like I said, fortunately, we've never had to do that.
Are we ready to vote?
What are we voting on?
We're voting on Roar.
Ms. Haynos,
Yes.
Mr. Heath,
No.
Dr. Jablonski,
No.
Mrs. Kraus,
Yes.
Ms. Lyons,
Yes.
Ms. Stanton,
No.
it's a tie.
Yeah.
Do we read, do we do this? Do we?
We reopen the discussion. We asked for recommendations from district administration, which unfortunately John's spoken his part. Mrs. Moser, you're the last standing.
Okay. So it's my opinion that we should pursue the opportunity to work with Adam Transportation based on the potential to be the company that can provide the drivers, the buses, the location, the opportunity to meet our needs in ways that have not been met under the current contract.
Thank you.
So do we vote again?
We need a new motion if we're going to change, or we just,
Okay.
no matter what, we need a new motion, the previous one.
So moved.
You have to be a
I
very
move
specific.
that we accept the contract from Adams.
Is there any second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Heath. Any further discussion? Concerns we want out in the public? I don't have the numbers at hand, but I think that in one discussion, we talked about the difference of cost actually being very close to a la carte expenses we had incurred based on gaps in our transportation needs.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a fair statement?
Yes, it basically doing the cost comparison, I took our existing runs with existing buses and basically priced it out using, kept that variable the same,
Mhm.
priced it out using each company's formula. So, yeah, if we have fewer vehicles, there would be a lower cost.
I think it's important to remember that we all have anecdotal experiences with transportation, either through kids or parents we talk to or this or that. I think it would be, the responsible thing is to listen to those who have much more day-to-day active involvement in what's going on. If there's been an opinion expressed, I personally would find that hard to ignore.
And I would just like to share too that I spoke with folks from Lewisburg and from Midwest who expressed just complete satisfaction with Adams. We're very happy and said they hadn't have any issues at all this year. So, I mean, that was good to hear too.
Thank you.
I think I can add that I can see your point, Corey, that I guess in my mind, I'm thinking there have been some unknowns with our current contractor in terms of, do we have the people to drive the buses? And also with Adam, the unknowns of it being a new situation. However, it's true that we need to kind of lean into what the people on the ground day to day ordering up the buses are saying. So.
And we do have an out, so we're not trapped in the case that something is not provided, whether that's vehicles or drivers. So if we're ready.
Mr. Heath,
Yes.
Dr. Jablonski,
Yes.
Mrs. Kraus,
Yes.
Ms. Lyons,
No.
Ms. Stanton,
Yes.
Ms. Haynos.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you, everyone, for participating. These are very difficult decisions. We've been talking about this for months, literally months, and it's big dollars, and it's a big time commitment. And the other piece of it is you can't just look at the sort of top line. We have to look at all the other incurred costs and inconveniences and missed games and things that we have discussed. And so, thank you for expressing your opinion, Mrs. Moser. I know this is not easy. Okay, on to the next item. The first thing is if I could have someone motion to add an item to the agenda, which is to approve the superintendent to file an application for the district to be able to use the flexible instructional delivery days in the event of weather-related or other unforeseen cancellation of regularly scheduled school days in the 23-24 school year.
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Haynos.
Second.
Second by Mrs. Kraus. To explain what this means is if there is, during COVID, these were used for sort of online remote instruction days, and it can help out in the case where, you know, there will still be snow days, but these are
Yes.
very helpful as a,
It gives us the option to
Flexibility.
decide to call it a snow day or to put remote instruction in place during a day of missed school. And it just is the flexibility to determine what's the best fit when they fall. If we have the worst winter ever and so many snow days, we would maybe want to make use of this. You've seen neighboring school districts this year have to go down a day due to a swatting incident or some perceived concern for school safety. We would be able to turn to remote instruction as opposed to tagging a makeup day or taking a day from one of our designated vacations and shortening those vacations by coming to school. Again, it just is the application process to make that determination at the local level under the circumstances. It gives us an option.
thank you. So to be clear, the first thing we need is a voice vote that we added an item. So it's been motioned and seconded. All in favor to add this particular item to the agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, now we need a motion to, like, just, you can just so moved, whoever wants to.
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Stanton, second by Ms. Lyons. Now we are actually voting to approve the superintendent to do this. And this is also a vote, this is a voice vote as well because. Yeah, okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you for that. It's not often that we add agenda items with that much detail.
Thank you.
Pass that down. That's what was read out.
Also, you can apply.
Also, I can fill it out.
All right. Next item on the board action, new business policies for first reading. We've taken a look at those. We're going to make that motion.
So moved.
Moved by Mrs. Kraus,
Second.
second by Ms. Lyons. Anything jump out? Anybody want to highlight anything? We're getting a lot of updates, PSBA and
Yeah,
otherwise.
We're
Yeah.
getting a lot of PSBA. If you look at the topics of these policies, it's a lot of the business of school business that just simply needs to be brought into line. And each one important in its own right. And so we've been busy at the committee level, working to update and revise ours.
Dr. Jablonski?
Yes.
Mrs. Kraus?
Yes.
Ms. Lyons?
Yes.
Ms. Stanton?
Yes.
Ms. Haynos?
Yes.
Mr. Heath?
Yes.
Motion carried.
The next motion I need is the expulsion of student 2023-2.
So moved.
Moved by Mrs. Kraus, second by Ms. Lyons. We don't discuss these items, but we do roll call.
Mrs. Kraus?
Yes.
Ms. Lyons?
Yes.
Ms. Stanton?
Yes.
Ms. Haynos?
Yes.
Mr. Heath?
Yes.
Dr. Jablonski?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Next, we have an MOU between LASD and LAEA, PSEA, NEA.
Yep.
Got it all.
You got it.
This is for the assistant girls volleyball coach. We had talked about this.
So moved.
Moved by Mrs. Kraus,
Second.
second by Ms. Stanton. Any discussion? Great, okay.
Okay. Ms. Lyons?
Yes.
Ms. Stanton?
Yes.
Ms. Haynos?
Yes.
Mr. Heath?
Yes.
Dr. Jablonski?
Yes.
Mrs. Kraus?
Yes.
Motion carried.
The next item is an MOU between LASD and George Drozen. This is the reassignment.
Yes,
So moved.
Moved by Mrs. Kraus,
Second.
second by Ms. Stanton. We need any discussion?
Ms. Stanton?
Yes.
Ms. Haynos?
Yes.
Mr. Heath?
Yes.
Dr. Jablonski?
Yes,
Mrs. Kraus?
Yes.
Ms. Lyons?
yes,
Motion carried.
thank you. The next item is the revised middle school principal job description.
So moved.
Okay, Ms. Kraus, motion to approve. Do a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Haynos. This will allow us to go out with a job ad. So, any discussion? This is a voice vote, right? Yeah. So all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, any opposed? Great. Next is board information, new business. The first new business item is the drawings that we had, and are we showing those or no?
We can, I was just gonna pop up our recommendation
Yes.
for layout number 2. Again, for the reasons detailed, one, in the event that we need to expand our restroom capability, we can push out here into another part of the property. There is a corridor down the middle, which will allow for cover if folks need to line up for a restroom in inclement weather. And this design provides 2 family restrooms as opposed to the other design that only had 1. So if the board is amenable to layout option number 2, and I believe that was also the feedback we got from other members of the folks that were
The
interested.
stakeholder group, yeah.
Yep, the stakeholder group. So if the board is okay with option number 2, then we'll go back to the architects and we'll let them know to proceed. And then we'll bring the formal drawings and bidding documents and that sort of thing to the board at a later date. So.
Right, thank you. This is a significantly supported by the Green Dragon Foundation, so
Yes.
it's good that we are moving this along, helps them move along as well.
Yes. And our goal is to get a shovel in the ground sometime in late September before our land development plan expires in October.
Yes, so we'll save a little money if we can
Yes.
expedite this situation.
That's the goal.
All right. Replacement and repairs to wheelchair lifts in the middle school and Kelly.
So there are wheelchair lifts alongside the stages at the middle school and Kelly, both of which I believe are 30+ years old. The one at the middle school has recently been repaired, so it is now functional again. The one at Kelly, unfortunately, is no longer functional. They're of similar models, and so our proposal to, again, try and stretch out things as best we can. You have before you information regarding, basically, we're going to take parts from the middle school lift, move it over to Kelly, get the Kelly lift up and running using the existing parts as necessary. And then we have a quote to replace the middle school lift. So that'll have a new one. We'll ask you to vote on that at the next meeting. And then once that's completed, they will have a new lift at the middle school. So that should carry us forward. The problem that we have at Kelly is that the design, when it was put in 30 years ago, was okay back then, but unfortunately today it does not meet ADA requirements. It doesn't meet ADA standards. So in addition to replacing the lift that is 30 years old and on its last legs, we're also probably going to have to do some construction and remodeling, possibly rearranging in order to meet ADA requirements for a replacement lift. So that is our facilities department's proposal to basically try and stretch this out over a couple years, is to replace the middle school and get Kelly up and running while we work on a plan to replace it and remain ADA compliant.
So I like this as an example. Did you budget for a wheelchair lift this year?
I think we may have.
Explicitly, did you? I don't think so. Not that I recall reading.
No, not among the
Right.
45 different items.
Right, and so
Yeah.
then the discovery of it also not being ADA compliant at Kelly adds dollars
Yes.
to that need. So do we currently have mobility challenge students at Kelly who are unable to get to the stage area?
I don't believe so.
Okay.
But in the event that we would,
Because usually we do at least
Yeah.
have one coming
yeah,
through, right?
and I do know that at Kelly, they typically have their performances in front of the stage
Yeah.
on the floor.
I was
but in the
gonna say,
event
I
we
was
need to get
recently at
them-
a concert with a child in a wheelchair, and she was
On the floor.
on the floor in front of the I mean, there were risers, they weren't up on the stage, but I mean, there are those students there.
True. Although not an excuse not to
Right,
repair
exactly.
something,
Exactly.
but yes.
Yeah, you
that-
can't not provide the access.
Yes, so we'll be bringing that to you in a future meeting.
Thank you for that information.
Can I just comment, while we're talking about ADA, so I'm not sure, and I don't know if it is a possibility, but in the Dragon's Den layout, just because we do have the family bathrooms, some family bathrooms do come equipped with changing areas that are large enough for not a child, like for an adolescent or an adult, and I don't know if that's something that could potentially be questioned.
We can,
I don't know if the wall size would fit, but if it is, that's something that maybe if it's not a big costly thing to look at, just as we're trying to make those
Yeah,
decisions to
we
be more
could-
ADA.
Yeah, one of them could be made bigger than the other by just shifting that middle room a bit, because the utilities room is kind of a squishy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
and
mean, we
usually they
can-
have ones that pull down
Yeah,
almost
yeah.
like a child's changing
Mhm.
table, just a little
Yeah.
bit larger.
And we will work with the architects to ensure that our family restrooms are ADA compliant, absolutely.
That's a good thought,
Good
thank you.
point. Well, a lot of times people, because you have the wheel installs and they don't think if somebody needs to be out of a chair
Yep.
to be changed.
Yes, I will bring that up to the architects, absolutely.
Thanks.
The next item of information are the middle school field renovation quotes.
Okay, so another expenditure that, again, is in our capital projects for the upcoming year. As the board has decided, we are going to remain a 2-campus school district. And one of the renovations that we are looking at is renovating the no longer used baseball field at the middle school to create a soccer field, as well as, I forget the others.
Football.
Football,
Junior high
yes,
football.
junior high soccer and junior high football, to provide them a permanent place to play, and as well as allow our softball team to have a permanent place to play on the softball field and not lose it every year, having to move the fence. So you have the 3 proposals there in front of you, one from Keystone Sports for a slightly larger field, and then one from Hummer, one using Gutelius Excavating, the other using Watson Excavating, both for a slightly smaller field that would allow the middle school concession stand to remain in place. So again, these are for your information. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to send me or Mr. Gallegos an email. We'll try to get you an answer and we'll bring this back. The goal would be to hopefully have the work done here in the late summer, early fall, so that the grass can be seeded in the fall. It can have a year to grow in, and then hopefully fall of 2024, we can begin using the field. That's the goal. Knock on.
Okay, for board president's report, I think we're just gonna say there's a lot of stuff at the end of the year. And are you gonna do all the dates for us? Some, okay. Graduation is the 6th. And we're all gonna, many of us will be there. So I'm not gonna add anything because you've got quite a bit there.
A little bit.
Let's have it.
Okay, all right. So for my report tonight, I thought I would bring us some good news to celebrate across the district. On the personnel report tonight, I want to extend congratulations to Mr. Hoffmaster, who joins our administrative staff going forward, and to Mr. Wetzel, whose administrative role will expand. And I also thank Mr. Drozen, who undertakes a change in his responsibilities that will best benefit the district. I congratulate Ms. Lambert, who now joins us in a full professional capacity at Kelly Elementary, and we're glad to have her with us as well. All of these people in place help us to continue our plans moving forward for the coming school year. I want to wish best wishes to Mrs. Lisa Hidley. She takes her leave from us, but Lisa this past year at Lintown in our nurse assistant capacity has been just a wonderful addition for the students and staff at Lintown. We wish her well. In other good news, last evening, Mr. Fetzer and Mrs. Stanton and Mr. Popowiz and myself had the opportunity to attend an amazing certificate awards program at Sun ATI, on site at Sun. Our Lewisburg students represented themselves very well, and Mr. Dave Bacher and his staff planned and presented a wonderful ceremony enjoyed by many people, the entire town of New Berlin, I believe, may have been in attendance, as it was held on the outside front lawn in front of Sun. 3 student speeches were particularly personalized and poignant last evening. These individual students spoke about what their educational experience has been like over the course of our 4 most recent years, including their pandemic experiences and those of their current present senior year at Sun. The evening was windy, but not wet, and truly wonderful. Our music teachers across all the buildings have worked with our ensembles and grade level music groups, and all have presented wonderful concerts over the most recent weeks. We truly have a great teaching staff and amazing student talent that has been proudly showcased for our parents, family, and community. We're very appreciative. End-of-year activities fill each day across our buildings. Staff and students are enjoying their final projects, their special events, and the opportunities to bring their studies to a close. We've been blessed with wonderful weather, affording us lots of opportunities to be outside, to provide field trips, and to complete our programs of instruction. These last 2 partial weeks of school will also feature some transition activities to afford students who are moving to new buildings this next academic year an opportunity to tour the school and see firsthand some of what they'll experience in the fall. My appreciation and gratitude for principals, counselors, and teachers who coordinate the schedules and make this annual opportunity possible. And finally, before we meet together again at our next board meeting on June 8, we will celebrate our seniors. LAHS commencement on Tuesday evening, June 6, in the Soika Pavilion at Bucknell. Always a very proud and somewhat bittersweet moment for our graduates and our staff. Thank you.
Thank you. We have the CSIU report. Is there anything you want to highlight, Marianne?
No, it's just another, well, that's not true. The art show is always just absolutely my favorite meeting because we come early and we get to see the student artwork and celebrate the artists and their families, and they're just so talented, and I love that the IU takes the time to do that and to highlight those kids and their artwork and their friends and their families, and it was really lovely. I wouldn't miss it.
Thank you. All right, so next up we have the consent agenda. We have a motion to approve.
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Lyons.
Second.
Second by Ms. Hanos. There are a lot of items on here. I'm assuming everyone's good with all of them.
Okay, Ms. Haynos?
Yes.
Mr. Heath?
Yes.
Dr. Jablonski?
Yes,
Mrs. Kraus?
Yes.
Ms. Lyons?
Yes.
Ms. Stanton?
Yes.
Motion carried.
thank you. All right, we'll take citizens' comments to the board on non-agenda items. Do you have anything online, John?
No comments online.
Okay. Do you have any comments from the public? Okay. Thank you. Director's comments. Want to start us?
We'll keep it short and sweet. Thank you both companies for coming tonight. Really valuable information from both sides, extremely difficult decision, and I appreciate you being here and sharing. Congrats to the Sun grads. I'm very pleased for them, and I've been reading about our team, or I think it's a state environmenthon team, if I'm not mistaken. And I'd also like to congratulate the track and field team. Great job there. That's all.
I mean, it's always craziness at the end of the year, so I feel like this one I kind of have the least amount because I'm also crazy. But it is exciting, all the stuff we have going on. I can't believe we're this close to the end of the year. Thank you for your presentations today. They were very informative. I don't really think I have anything else. Congrats to the seniors, since when we come back, they'll be graduated.
Yeah, they're all downtown, running into them everywhere because they're not in class then. And thanks very much for coming. And I appreciated what all of you had to say, so thank you. that was my first son graduation, and it was, I was honored to be there. The speakers were so good. And they each came at it from a different space, and I really appreciated that. And there was a performance, and he was really good. I was like, he needs to be on like The Voice or American Idol or something. He was really, really good. It was a really special event, and I'm so glad that I went. And I'm just going to encourage all the board members that if you have a chance to go, you should go. It was seeing their excitement, seeing the kids. It was really lovely. That's really all I have to say tonight.
Thank you.
I don't have much either. Thank you to both companies for coming and presenting. Very tricky decision. So I appreciate all the information you guys could share. Congratulations to SunTech graduees. It's just such a great program over there. And it's so nice to see such a nice event for not just our traditional graduates. So I think that is wonderful. And congratulations to everyone who's doing everything, and Mr.
All the
Hoff,
things.
all the things. And thank you to Mr. Hoffmaster for joining us on our administrative team. I think he will be a great addition. And thank you to Mr. Drozen for all of his years of service to the district. He's still with the district in the role as principal. Sorry, I should have been more clear on that, as principal.
I just wanted to say congratulations to all our graduates, SunTech and otherwise. It's a big step.
I agree. I want to ditto all of that. It's a very difficult meeting. Anytime we talk about budgets, we talk about contracts and big decisions that commit us to lots of money over periods of time. And we take it seriously. There's a couple of sort of construction related items that we talk about. There's obviously the big one tonight. That's a hard decision. There's a cycle to everything. We know where we are in the cycle of this year, but it always becomes that we need to do things when we do them because the next thing has to happen. You know, if you want to hire an administrator and they have an out clause in their current contract elsewhere, you have a finite amount of time where the window isn't closing on you. If you want to put out bids for something that you know has a 3-month to order it lead time, which I'm assuming any kind of lift or anything we're getting right now does, and you want it in place for August, these are the types of things that, you know, make us have to make hard decisions. And sometimes it feels stressful because of the timing and because of all the other external factors right now, increasing costs, supply chain, contract issues, whatever it may be. So thank you everyone. And I really want to thank Mrs. Moser. It's hard to be the person that puts yourself out there to say, you know, these are the things we have to do. And she's done it now for us with the playground, with the painting, with how we, you know, need to work very closely with the Green Dragon Foundation to make sure that we're lining everything up. So, and John is a big part of that too, getting all those quotes and pictures and all the things, all the documentation that has to move through these different organizations to get things done in the district. There's a mountain of paperwork behind every 2-sentence motion. All the processes, many mountains. So thank you to you as well. And I know these are tough, so thanks everyone. With that, I can take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second. Okay, moved by Ms. Stanton, second by Ms. Lyons. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, we're adjourned.